We've talked so much about Xbox and their plans for E3. I don't think we focused enough on Nintendo in the last few weeks. Obviously, Nintendo just had a direct with Animal Crossing, and I know people are super excited about that. I am personally not an Animal Crossing fan, but I understand the phenomenon with that and why people should be excited about it. But it just kind of highlights to me, as we're here in 2020, what the hell is Nintendo doing? Not what they're doing, but what are they going to do in 2020? They've already made it clear that we're not getting a Switch Pro, which for me personally is disappointing. But when you really think about it, Nintendo really doesn't have an incentive right now to put out a Switch Pro, because they could hold on to that thing into 2021, let the dust settle with the Series X and the PlayStation 5, and then drop that on us. And then, of course, their hardcore fans are going to run out and get it no matter what. But then they're going to be able to get some other people that initially had the funds to go get a PlayStation 5 or a Series X. Now on the back end, maybe they'll invest into a Switch Pro. Not to mention the Switch Lite is selling like gangbusters. Obviously, the Switch Prime, as you may want to call it, is still selling fairly well. I mean, Nintendo actually has outpaced the Xbox One in this generation, and it came out 4 years after the initial Xbox One in 2013, because I think the Switch was 2017. So that is just showing you, I mean, pace wise, it's actually ahead of even the PlayStation 4, which is just phenomenal. And I root for Nintendo so much, because Nintendo, obviously, we're not talking right now if it wasn't for Nintendo, because Nintendo created the home console market for what it is today with the NES back in '85. And just all the successes and the failures that they've had over the past few decades is just, they've always set the precedent for the market. They've always been the publisher that has innovated in the gaming space with just some of the things that they've done. I mean, they're the ones that introduced Rumble. They introduced wireless controllers. They obviously tried VR back in the 90s. Obviously the Wii remote that we got, I mean, held the Switch itself, is an innovation, which, we even saw the beta for that, I guess you could say, with the Wii U. N64 for what it was. I mean, the GameCube, I mean, was, people look back, can at the time kind of panned it, but when you look at what the GameCube was trying to do back then, was innovation. So, I've always said that when it comes to being a developer, Nintendo is the best developer in the world. They just are. Because think about it. They don't need third party. It is great that they have third party that is now on the Switch, and we've seen support for it. But even if they didn't have one third party publisher put a game on a Nintendo product, we're still going to buy it. Want to know why? Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Donkey Kong, Pikmin, I mean, Animal Crossing, the list goes on. They have so many established in-house IPs that people want to play. They just simply don't. They need it, of course. I mean, the more software that you have, the better, obviously. So third party is key. But Nintendo has shown, their track record has shown, that they can still push units with just their in-house stuff. I buy a Nintendo product for Nintendo games. I mean, third party is just a nice bonus to have on there. Clearly, like as an example right now, The Witcher 3, being on the Nintendo Switch, the fact that they've enabled cloud saves on there is a nice bonus for me to have a Switch. But it's not why I have a Switch. I have a Switch for Breath of the Wild. I have it for Mario Odyssey. I mean, the list goes on with the games that have come out, for the Switch. So that's why I always root for Nintendo, and that's, again, bringing this full circle back, why Nintendo can drag their feet as far as putting out the next generation of the Switch, which would probably be the Switch Pro, which I assume would have better Joy-Cons, would have better battery life, probably in dock mode could play games potentially in 4K, things like that. Obviously maybe a bigger screen, but a more improved screen on a portable version of the Switch. Better Bluetooth support, better accessories that go with it. That's what I'm assuming we'll see, with a Switch Pro, but they have zero incentive to put one out in 2020. The smart thing for them to do, I mean, we'll see what their holiday lineup looks like. I'm going to assume a Metroid potentially comes out the end of this year, maybe a Donkey Kong, something like that. They'll have a surprise for us that they'll probably announce at E3 of a big, classic legacy IP that we're going to get on the Switch, I would assume, You know, I know there's been rumblings about a sequel to Zelda, maybe another Mario, something like that. But in my opinion, why do it? I mean, let's get Metroid, let's get Donkey Kong, let's get something like that to come out. Let's get a Switch version of Pikmin, something of that nature. I mean, they have the Rogues Gallery that they can dip into, that they can put out this holiday. So I'm going to be excited to see what they do at E3 and what they have to announce. So. Yeah, that's Nintendo. Like I said, I'm excited to see what their roadmap's going to look like for this year and as we go into 2021, because I mean they just still have so many titles that they can put out. Now, PlayStation. You know, again, we've talked about this at Daily Conversations in some previous episodes. We clearly have no idea what they're going to do. We just don't know. But we don't know. We don't know what their roadmap looks like to launch this PlayStation 5. There've obviously been the rumblings with Bloomberg, with the price, all that. There's been alleged 4chan spec leaks of what the hardware is going to be. I take all that stuff with a grain of salt. But regardless of that, we now know they're not going to PAX East due to the coronavirus. They're not going to go to GDC due to coronavirus. So that's interesting. I've heard some rumblings that they will be at Tokyo Game Show. I'm sure they're going to be at Gamescom, things like that. We know they will not be at E3. So I still stick with the fact that, and I know Danny doesn't agree with me on this, that probably in middle to late May, maybe early June, they do a state of play. And they kind of just show off the hardware and run down the specs. You know, Mark Cerny pre-recorded thing. You know, they can show some demos of some back catalog games. At that point, The Last of Us 2 is out. They could even show The Last of Us 2 running on the PlayStation 5. Look how quicker it loads on the PlayStation 5. Look how better it looks in native 4K. It's running at 60 frames. They can do stuff like that with that game. Ghost of Tsushima, they could show that off. Obviously, a legacy game like Spider-Man, they could show God of War. I'm thinking that's how they reveal the PlayStation 5, to say this is how powerful this thing is. Look at games that you're already playing, how much better they are on the PlayStation 5. Then at some determined point after E3 or even around E3, they're going to wait until Xbox reveals all their cards. But after that, then they say, all right, here's the games lineup. Here's what's coming this holiday. Here's the price, things like that. We're now taking a show on the road. You're going to get to see it at Gamescom. You're going to get to see it at the Tokyo Game Show. You're going to see it at PAX West, Paris Games Week. We're going to do our own PlayStation experience right before launch, bring the fans in, have a big celebration about it. You know, that whole thing. To me, I think that is probably the play for PlayStation. No pun intended, but that's probably what they'll do to launch this thing. And we're all going to buy it. And I'm going to stick with that. It's going to be anywhere between $450 or let's get it right, $449.99 to $499.99. It'll be in that price range. I just can't see this thing doing what it wants to do in 2020 hardware wise, spec wise, them being able to get it down to $400 without taking a massive loss for the first year or two, which I just don't think they need to do. I don't think Sony needs to do that to quote unquote still be the leader in this space. I think they can confidently launch a PlayStation 5 at $500 and all their hardcore people are still going to buy it. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's going to be people like I told the story at CES, the Uber driver that said he will not buy any of these new things if it's over $400. And I can feel that and understand that because it's not a cheap hobby to be into gaming. He said, I'll be more than content to wait. And I have a vast gaming library already on my PlayStation 4 that I can play and wait it out till the price drop. So again, back to my point, and I think this also conveys with Xbox as well. You know, the hardcore will buy at whatever price they set in that first 3 to 6 months, right? That launch window. We're going to buy it anyways. But, you know, the casual audience, yeah, they're probably going to wait until a price cut. But I still think there's enough of a hardcore base of PlayStation fans out there that will go buy that thing if it's $500, especially if they have a compelling launch window lineup of games that of things that people want to play. And they're not just simply saying, I don't care about that launch lineup. I'll just stick to The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima and God of War and Spider-Man, things that I've already played. Again, my speculation is that there will be an Insomniac game at launch, or Ratchet and Clank. I think it just makes a lot of sense to have at launch a nice, fun platformer that they'll be able to get out, you know, nice 10 to 12 hour experience with that. I'm going to assume that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 does not make it at launch at this point. I think that'll probably be your holiday 2021 game. But I do think that Guerrilla has something. Is it Killzone? TBD, but they'll have something. But a shooter makes a lot of sense at launch to have. I know there's been rumblings of some kind of Dark Souls type game at launch. You know, obviously with the backwards compatibility, you're going to have Last of Us 2 enhanced. That's going to be on there. I'm sure there's going to be some strong third-party support at launch, but those will probably also be cross-gen as well, because third-party publishers are not going to ignore the 100+ million PlayStation 4 owners out there. They're going to make sure their games are available there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, with all three of them, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, how they handle holiday 2020. I do think that PlayStation is in an excellent position right now for holiday, because they have the brand awareness. They're taking their message directly to the consumer, it seems. And I think it will not, at a minimum, it will be on par with whatever the Series X is going to be, and we know it's going to be a beast. Mark Cerny is a genius, so we look at what he did with the PlayStation 4 as an example, and just forget the Pro, just the PlayStation 4. Look how amazing titles have looked over the past 7 years just on the PlayStation 4. So I expect nothing less as we go to the PlayStation 5 as well. And as long as they just continue doing what they're doing with their games lineup, they're going to be fine. Absolutely fine. I would, if I had to critique anything with PlayStation, I want to see them give me a reason to go get PlayStation Plus again, because I let it lapse in October and I don't miss it, and I don't see a reason to get it, even, you know, obviously when The Last of Us 2 comes out, or even Ghost of Tsushima over the summer. There's just no reason for me to get PlayStation Plus. I played my multiplayer games. The only multiplayer game I played on PlayStation was Destiny. That was it. And the second that cross save came into play, I ditched it and I went to PC, and I don't see me looking back. So give me some compelling multiplayer content, compelling co-op content on PlayStation, and I'd be more than happy to pick up PlayStation Plus again. So that would be my one critique that I would like to see them fix as we go into the next gen. But hands down, single player experience, story experiences, PlayStation has just simply owned the market this past decade, if you really look at it. You know, I mean, obviously the stories from The Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, you know, even Ratchet and Clank I could throw in there. There's just been so many great PlayStation single player experiences out there that, you know, I don't see that slowing down at all.